By our Stop the Bleed training for y'all. Glad y'all can make it. We're going to introduce everyone that will be presenting. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to just raise your hand, ask for some extra details. We'll be happy to give it to you. So first up we have...
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Chief Ronnie Rojas. I'm the Security Department Senior Enlisted Leader, and I will start off on the PowerPoint. Assisting me is also everyone McDade.
Hello, my name is MA1 McDade. First name is Sean. Come from Arizona in the States, and I'll be doing the insider threat portion of today's training. Is everybody here okay in the back?
Do we need a mic?
Yes, sir. Awesome.
We need a mic, let me know. We'll turn it on.
Can you use a mic?
Sure. Mic check. Mic. Everybody hear me good?
Yes, sir.
Get my karaoke voice.
This one, sir.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm our Lieutenant Junior Grade Mendez. I'm one of the nurses on board the Mercy, and we're going to be doing the Stop the Bleed active shooter training.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Amanda Rodriguez, and I'm one of the corpsmen on board the USNS Mercy.
Amanda Rodriguez. Kuya nito?
Hello guys, good afternoon. I'm Paula Stanley. I'm also a corpsman on the USNS Mercy.
Amanda Rodriguez.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm H3 Allison, also corpsman on the USNS Mercy.
All right, with that being said, we're going to go ahead and start off the training. So again, we're going to talk about active shooter, what to do when you have an active shooter, if you get the word of an active shooter that's going on in the building. And for this training, this discussion, we're going to talk about if this building had an active shooter. So for an active shooter, some of the things we'll talk about. What should you do? If you're in your office space and you hear the word, there's an active shooter, or you hear gunfire, gunshot, what will you do? 3 things, something to remember here. Run, hide, and fight. If you can run and escape, please, by all means, get out as fast as you can. Just get out of the area. And if you cannot, the next thing will be to hide. Can you hide safely without being found? Last resort, fight for your life. Fight, take out the active shooter if you can. So run. When you decide to run, you make sure you have an escape route or a plan in mind. So if you're going to leave here, know where you can escape. Know your escape routes. Where can I go? Can I go down the stairwells? Can I go through the front door? Where's the active shooter? So those are the things you want to know or have in mind. Is this our only exit here? Is there something in the back that we can escape? So keep that in mind of wherever you're at. Where is your escape route? How can I get out of that space or that room without being seen? Leave your belongings behind. Leave your radios, phones, backpacks, whatever the case may be. Leave your work behind. Just grab yourself and get out of there. Keep your hands visible. The reason why you want to keep your hands up, so let's say you're leaving the building or an office and police or security is coming up. They want to make sure they see hands, because they're going to come in with all their guns out, rifles. They're coming out with it. They want to make sure that if they see you, they see no weapons. You're coming out with your hands up. Always keep them visible. All right, so run. You couldn't run. There's no way to run, right? So what's our next thing? We're going to hide. You want to hide in somewhere where it's out of the active shooter's view. Don't let him see you. It's like hide and go seek. We played it growing up. Hide from them. Don't let them see you. If we were to hide in here, I would have everyone go to the back. Maybe barricade this door here. Barricade it, put chairs, lock it, whatever the case may be, and we're going to go hide back there and be quiet as a mouse. Place your phone on silent. That's probably the biggest thing that people forget to do is their cell phones. Make sure you put it on silent. The last thing you want is to get a text message while the active shooter is walking around outside. So that's the last resort. Run you couldn't do, you couldn't hide, now you have to fight. It's you and that active shooter. As a last resort, and only when in imminent danger. meaning you have to fight this individual, whatever you can, overpower him or her, so you can make it out of here alive. So try to take out the active shooter. If he or she is in here, use something in here as a weapon. Use the chairs, use anything, use the mic, just swat him upside the head, whatever you need to do. At the end of the day, you need to fight for your life and walk out of here alive. You can also throw things out of them. Doesn't hurt. Throw a staple, whatever the case may be. So to respond when law enforcement arrives on scene, remain calm and follow those officers' instruction. Whatever they tell you to do, do it. If they say hands up, your hands should already be up. We're going to walk outside these doors in a straight line, then that's what you're going to do. Keep your fingers out as well. Make sure they can see it. Don't do anything quick maneuvers or anything like that. You don't want them to think you're trying to break away or you have something in your pocket. Be nice and slow. Go exactly where they tell you to go. Try not to point, scream, or anything. Just follow their directions. They're going to take you to safety. And don't stop or ask the officers if they need any help. Let them do it. Let us do it. That's what we're there for. They're going to take care of it. Their job is to get you to safety. So you get the word of an active shooter. You need to call law enforcement. Dial 911. Call your dispatch. Let them know, hey, I have an active shooter at the new city hall. The things you want to know, they need to know is how many shooters do you have? 1, 2, do you know what kind of weapon? Is it a regular pistol? Is it a rifle? Shotgun? If you can get that information out. But how many shooters? Do you have a description of the shooter? What are they wearing? Talked about weapons, and then number of victims at the location. You can say, I'm in a classroom with 30, 40 people. Or I'm in a full building with everybody. Everybody's at work. But you want to get all that information to 911, to law enforcement, so they can come and assist you and bring everybody that needs to be brought out here. So some of your key points. Again, know your escape route. And we're going to talk about an escape route here in a little bit. We're going to have an exercise about what would happen if you had an active shooter here. But every time you come to work or a new place, know your escape route. How can you get out of there? What are your escape routes? Leave everything behind. You don't need it. You don't need any of that stuff. All that stuff can be replaced. Your life can't. So that's the important thing. When you hide out of sight, out of mind. Block your entry points. Turn your phones off. And if your last resort is to fight that active shooter, fight the active shooter. All of us in this room can probably take down an active shooter, especially if somebody's trying to reload. So their weapon jammed. That's like for us an instinct. If I know your weapon jammed or you're trying to reload, I can run up to you and probably knock you down to the ground and overpower you. But as a last resort. Use different exits from your workplace. So familiar yourself where you're at work. Know I can go in through this door, I can leave through that door. Just know you have different ways to get to and from work. Have a code word to let everybody know that something is over or something's going on. Normally, buildings would have a security department or security team that would say a code word that would tell you everything is okay. So you hear green car, green bug should tell you that's a code word that says, hey, everything is good, we're all safe. Report any suspicious activities and follow up on those reports. So if you see something that's not right, report it. And we'll go more into depth with that later. And know the people that are in your office building, or that should be in your office building. Somebody may be out of place. That's probably something you would probably want to report. Physical security and random anti-terrorism measures. So this is more for the military around the world. For every country, we all have different types of force protection conditions. So it just tells you alpha is everything is good, it's nice and quiet, no problems, and then you go all the way down to delta that's talking about something has happened. There's a major incident that has happened. All right, is there any questions? What are the 3 things we're going to do if we have an active shooter? Run, hide, fight. Outstanding. Thank you.
Good job. again, MA1 Dave here, going over insider threat training. Let's get into this. Let's see, which button do I push? The arrow? That arrow works. All right, what is an insider threat? The term insider threat means, with respect to the department, a threat represented by a person who has or once had authorized access to the informational facility. So one of your coworkers could be an insider threat. Someone that works with you has a really bad week, and now they are an insider threat. Recognizing signs of potential workplace violence. That's why Senior was saying, know your people, know who you work with, know your surroundings. That way everybody can work towards noticing things that are off. In the Navy, we say when you're on a ship, everybody's a lookout. It's everybody's responsibility to keep everyone else safe. So, buddy checks. An active shooter may be a current or former employee. Alert your manager or human resources. If you believe that an employee exhibits potential violent behavior, indications of potentially violent behavior may include one or more of the following: increased use of alcohol or illegal drugs, unexplained increases in apps not showed up to work or vague complaints, depression, withdrawal. So at once, they were an exciting person to talk to, and now they've become withdrawn and doesn't like to talk to people. Increased or severe mood swings, noticeably unstable or emotional responses, increase in unsolicited comments about violence, firearms or other dangerous weapons, or violent crimes. Things to look out for. Potential risk indicators. Most insider threats exhibit risky behavior prior to committing negative workplace events. If identified early, many risks can be mitigated before the harm to the organization occurs. It is your responsibility to report these indicators to your supervisor or security. Early reporting can prevent harm to self and others, losses to the organization, and protect national security or just security of the workplace, security to others. Some indicators: professional life cycle and performance. Declining performance ratings, so that you used to be a really good employee, noticing they're not so good anymore. Getting more reprimands or in trouble at work, HR complaints, demotions, pending separation status, suspension, involuntary administrative leave, unauthorized absence, or in the military called AWOL or VUA, unauthorized absence. All right, foreign considerations. Foreign travel to countries of concern, official or non-official. Frequent personal foreign travel, foreign business or political interests, possession of foreign assets, foreign citizenship. So this is talking more like espionage, that kind of insider threat, not like the active shooter kind of insider threat. Talking about, spy stuff, things you're looking for. Security and compliance incidents, security infractions, non-compliance with training requirements, delinquency, government charge card, misuse of DoD purchase card, time entry violations, security clearance, and so on and so on there. Failure to self-report information associated with holding security clearances. So a bunch of lists we got going on here, huh? Technical activity, violating acceptable user or other automated information system policies like computer policies, going on websites they shouldn't be, or trying to get on the websites they shouldn't be going on, suspicious or unauthorized email browsing activity, attempting introduction of unauthorized USB devices. So on the government computers, we're not authorized to plug any USB in the computer without authorization from our ITs. Attempting to burn disks, transfer data, personal or suspicious account, attempting to modify registry or system settings, or disabling antivirus firewall settings, or introducing malicious code. Don't do that. Some more indicators: criminal, violent, or abusive conduct, violence or threat of violence at work, possession of unauthorized weapons. Any weapons at work should be unauthorized. authorized weapon at an unauthorized time or location, mishandling of weapons, failure to follow court order, financial considerations for insider threat, filing for bankruptcy, getting really in debt, foreclosing on the house, not paying your loans, or get that gambling problem, substance abuse, addictive behaviors, things to look out for with your friends, your coworkers. Judgment, character, and psychological conditions. So they lied on their application to get the job, falsifying hiring information, falsifying data at a place of work, expressing ill will towards the organization, communicating extremist views, associating with extremist or terrorist groups, enabling or facilitating an extremist or terrorist group, admission to inpatient mental health facility, voluntary or involuntarily, antisocial or impulsive behavior, mental instability, failure to successfully complete polygraph. Don't really have to do those. All right, so this is where it gets important, right? Spotting and reporting. Not all these potential risk indicators will be evident in every insider threat, or not everyone who exhibits these behaviors is doing something wrong, of course. However, most previous insider threats have displayed at least some of these potential risk indicators that we've gone over. You cannot underestimate the role you play in protecting against insider threats. You are the first line of defense as an employee, as a person, as a human. First line of defense for our friends. See something, say something. Suspect something, say something. You're not tattletaling on them. You're not trying to get them in trouble. You're just trying to protect them and protect yourself and your other employees. Like I said at the beginning, everyone to look out. See something, say something. All right, that's it for the insider threat portion. Next, we'll move on to the tabletop exercise. Anybody want to start on that one?
All right, so for this, we want to get everyone at the table to kind of give your thought. So, shots fired in the building. We're all in here having a great time. We're doing training, and all of a sudden you hear gunshots coming outside, right? Can we run? Where can we run? Where do you think we can run? Which way? Back there, right?
Yes.
What if we can't run that way?
This way.
We're going to go this way, right? So if you see out there, it's a very big open area. So you're going to see an active shooter if he comes through. You're going to see him. So the best bet will be to, like you said, go that way. So we can't run, right? Where are we going to hide? What are the things you're going to take into consideration? If we had to hide in here, where would we hide? The bathroom? What about the tables? What can we do with the tables?
Barricade.
Barricade. We can make a little wall back there. We can put some of these tables, put them here, lock it, move all this stuff, just throw them over there. We don't have to make it look pretty. Just start throwing things. And then we can barricade ourselves in the back with the tables. So that way, if an active shooter comes through the door, he or she can't get in there because we've already barricaded. We're hiding in the back and we're quiet. And what about our cell phones? Silent or off? Absolutely. So we try to run, couldn't run. We try to hide. They saw us trying to hide. So he comes through, he or she breaks through. But we have to fight, and it's all of us against one person. How are we going to fight him or her? What are we going to use to fight? Anything in here? Throw the chairs, right? Throw the chairs. I can use them. I can just flick it. Hopefully I'll hit them upside the head, or just start spinning it. I'm gonna just start twirling it and hit people. Feel like Wonder Woman in here. use the sticks over there. We have a lot of weapons, stuff that we can use for a weapon in here. The mics, tables, chairs, those poles. We're gonna win. We're all going home tonight. So we're gonna run, right? We decided to run. The active shooter is upstairs. He or she is doing whatever he's doing upstairs. We were able to get out of here and run, and we went to the back. What are some of the things that we're going to tell law enforcement? We call 911, right? What are you telling them? How many shooters, right? How many we have right now so far? One. Yep, male or female? How many, did you see a weapon? Was it a pistol? Was it a rifle, a shotgun? Injuries. That's another thing you may want to report. Is anybody injured? Is anybody hurt? Let them know. And again, we talked about safe path out the building. So we would go down there, and I would just tell people, just keep going as far as you can. Get away as far as you can to the next building or somewhere where it's safe. Some of the places you don't want to hide is like the immediate area, the parking lot. Sometimes the shooter will come out and go to that parking lot and see people there, and he will start doing things there. So go as far as you can. So wherever is the furthest you can from here, that's where you're going to go. Yeah, we covered this already. Windows are already taped up, so that's good. We can lock the doors, barricades. We talked about this already. What to use as a weapon? Again, I would use a mic. I would unplug it from the wall, and I'm swinging this mic. All right, questions? Any questions? No questions? All right, thank you very much. That covers our active shooter portion. Well, I'll now turn it over to our medical team. Thank you.
May question pa niya. What if I'm in a dialysis? Ay, kaya pala. Hindi ka pa
All right, good afternoon, everyone. Again, I'm J.G. Mendez. I'm one of the nurses on board the Mercy, and I work at the Naval Hospital in San Diego when we're back in California. So this is a great segue after that training that you guys just did. So what happens if you guys do have some injuries? What happens if someone does get shot? What happens if someone falls down the stairs and breaks a leg, right? This is a training that's meant to be for people that don't have a whole lot of medical knowledge. So it's very basic, but it is very important because it can help save lives at the end of the day. This training was put together by the Community on Trauma, the TCCC network, and as well as the Committee on Trauma, the American College of Surgeons. All right, I do have three of my corpsmen. They are going to be helping me do some hands-on later on after this training. So we brought some training kits, some tourniquets, some gauze, and we're going to practice on how to control bleeding and all that good stuff and fun stuff. Okay? If you guys need to slow down, if you need me to repeat anything, please let me know, okay? Alright, so there are a couple images on the PowerPoint where they show simulated bleeding and stuff like that. If anybody is a little squeamish, just look away. If you need to step out of the room, please do so. Just come back, or we can just move to the next slide, okay? Alright, so why do we need this training, right? So active shooters are a real thing. Accidents are a real thing, so this doesn't only apply to active shooters, this could also apply to accidents, a car accident, a hunting accident, any type of accident. You could deal with stabbings, not necessarily just shootings, so other type of injuries as well. So the number one preventable cause of death after an injury is actually bleeding to death. So if you stop the bleeding, you're already preventing the most common or preventable cause of death after an injury. Any questions so far?
No questions at all.
So where can you use this training?
How about the
You can use it here at work, right? You can use it in public. You can use it at home. You can use it anywhere, essentially. So our job here is to help you guys become more comfortable with this training. At the end of the training, if you guys go to stopthebleed.org, you can become instructors. So you guys could go and train in schools. You guys could go and train in other areas where you guys feel this might be important. So you guys could register as instructors there. And it's a pretty easy process. There are a couple additional trainings that you have to do online, but they're free. And then you can purchase some of the kits if you would like, but you don't have to. You could use other types of things to simulate trainings and tourniquets and other things like that. All right, so the goals of this training, we have two goals. They're super basic. The first goal is to identify, and then the second goal is to stop. So recognize life-threatening bleeding is our first goal, and our second goal is going to be to stop. And we do 3 techniques for stopping bleeding with this training, okay? So our first technique is to apply pressure. So you would just apply pressure. So we're actually going to pull up at some stuff with the kids. But if he had a gunshot on that arm, she would apply direct pressure to that arm, okay? So that's the first step. The second step is called packing. So typically we use gauze, but if you don't have gauze for that, you could use a clean shirt. You can use anything that's made out of cloth, handkerchief, anything that you can pack into that wound, okay? And that's going to help stop that bleeding. And you would apply pressure on top of that. If for whatever reason pressure and packing do not work, then you want to go to tourniquets. Tourniquets, we have this commercially purchased tourniquets. However, you could create a tourniquet out of pretty much any material. You could create a tourniquet from a belt. You could make a tourniquet with a shirt. You could even make a tourniquet with like a neckerchief or anything like that that you have. The only real requirements to make a tourniquet is you don't want it to be too thin because then you're cutting into the skin. So you want to make sure it's wide enough for it to not cut into the skin and for it to apply enough pressure to stop that bleeding, okay? All right, any questions so far? And we'll go more in depth in all of those, okay? All right, the number one most important thing of this training, though, is that you want to keep yourself safe. If you are in an active shooter situation and there are shots being fired, you do not want to go try to help your friend because then you're going to get shot and then now there's 2 people down instead of just 1. So you don't want to increase the number of people that are injured. You want to wait until it's safe for you to help that person, okay? So you don't want to become a victim yourself. So if you start helping someone, like let's say you don't hear any shooting, you don't hear anybody coming, there's no one screaming, everything seems safe, and you're helping someone, and then all of a sudden the active shooter walks in, you want to move yourself to safety. So don't just sit there and continue to help that person. If you can drag him with you, great, but if not, you need to get yourself to safety first. Any questions so far? All right, other types of safety. In the medical community, right, a lot of the time we have gloves, we wear goggles, we use a lot of hand washing and hand sanitizer, stuff like that to help protect ourselves from infectious diseases that could be contracted through blood. If you do have some, hand sanitizer or anything like that, or if you have some type of gloves or some type of barrier, we always recommend that you use that and don't expose yourself to direct blood. But if you have no choice and you're comfortable with, applying pressure on someone's wound, then you could always do that as well. All right, so to remember the three basic goals of this training, we use ABC. So A is for alert. Typically, we would call 911 in the States. Here, I'm not too sure what number you guys dial, but you would call your EMS system, right? The B is for bleeding, so you're going to want to control any bleeding, and you do that by compressing. It's your first line of defense. When there's active bleeding, you're going to compress. So this is essentially saying the same thing, so we're going to skip the slide. The security team already talked about what you need to communicate to the 911 operator or the emergency operator. You should know where you're located, and you should follow all instructions that the operator gives you. You should always tell them how many victims you suspect, what kind of injuries there are, and if there's still an active shooter or if there's still a threat in that area, so that they could send both ambulances and police department if they need to. All right, so we're going to get into some of the bleeding control, okay? So the first thing is you're going to want to see is check for bleeding. If you see someone laying on the floor, you see any blood. If you see blood, you want to know where it's coming from, right? So you want to identify that source. Is it continuous bleeding? Is it squirting? Or is it oozing? Is it a big pool of blood? Is it a little pool of blood? Those are all things that you want to note because you need to figure out where it's coming from and how bad it is. So there might be multiple gunshots, there might be multiple points of injury. You always want to pick the biggest one first and stop that one first. Because if you start with a little cut on the arm and you miss a gunshot on the backside and they're bleeding out through there, then that cut's not going to help. You putting pressure in that cut on the arm, it's not going to help. So remember, clothing can also hide any bleeding. So for us, it's really important we try to cut off any clothes, try to rip it off. We always flip someone on the side to check their back, to make sure that they're not bleeding from their back and that we don't miss that bleeding. All right, so these are three of the major areas where people can bleed. The arms and the legs are the largest. The neck and the armpits and the groin area, those are trickier to identify because we call those pockets. So someone could be bleeding there, but because it's kind of like a pocket area, the bleeding might be going into like that part of the body and it might be hidden. So you might have to pack that wound with more gauze than normal. And then you have the body itself. So the body, you really can't control bleeding from there. Because it's inside the stomach, right? Like it's internal bleeding. And no matter how much pressure you put on that, it's not going to stop. So they need to get to the emergency department ASAP so that they could get surgical intervention to control that form of bleeding. But the two main types of bleeding that we can control are any bleeding in the arms, legs, and any in the neck, armpits, and groin. Any questions so far? All right, so we're going to go ahead and move to our first line of defense, which is applying pressure. So apply direct pressure to the wound. So that means you apply pressure directly over that bullet hole or that knife wound. Whatever wound it is, you're always going to put pressure on top of that. The only exception is if the person has broken bones and those bones are sticking out of their body. You do not want to put pressure over that because you could cause more damage if the sharp edges of the bones, if you push those down, they could lacerate or they could damage more blood vessels and arteries, and that would cause even more bleeding. So you always apply pressure except if you suspect like an open fracture and you can see bones sticking out. Focus on the location of bleeding, so make sure that you know where the source is coming from, and make sure that it's either the only source or it's the source that's bleeding out the most. Use just enough gauze or cloth to cover the injury. If you apply a large amount of gauze, then you're just soaking in a lot of blood and it's not very effective. You really just need a small little ball of gauze to apply good pressure. It's easier to apply pressure in a smaller area than a larger area. So a big bulky gauze won't apply the same direct pressure that a smaller one would. If the pressure stops the bleeding, then you could stop there. You could continue to hold pressure until help arrives, but you do not need to move on to any of our other interventions.
Sir, I have a question.
Yes?
If the bleeding is in head, what will we do? Will we cloth also?
Like on the head itself? So that you would really just only use gauze. And we actually don't recommend packing anything into the head, right? Because you could be packing directly into the brain if the bone is fractured. So you would be causing more damage. So with that, just gauze and applying light pressure, and that's going to have to be a surgical intervention. So they would have to get to the hospital as soon as possible. Yeah, so gauze, you could use a clean shirt, a clean sweater, a clean, handkerchief, anything that's
I have an experience. I was in an accident and I cement my hand.
So there is this video here, and she's going to demonstrate how to apply direct pressure with a t-shirt. So
I don't
it's a
need
clean
any
t-shirt.
assistance.
She's slowly packing it on top of that wound, and she's applying direct pressure. See, she's applying a good amount of pressure, so you have to really lean into that wound to actually be able to stop that bleeding. And we'll get to practice that in a little bit here. Alright, so now we're going to go ahead and move into packing. So compression was our first line, and packing is going to be our second line of defense here, okay? So you see the top one, this is what we want. If the wound or the hole is large, we want it packed into it, right? You don't want to just do this because there's a big gap here and the patient can bleed into that area. So you want to make sure you pack it in, and then once it looks like this, you apply pressure on top of that. This is more effective for large wounds because the pressure, again, it's just going to keep oozing into that big gaping hole underneath the skin anyways. So you want to look inside of the hole. If you could see the artery or the vein that's actively bleeding, you can put direct pressure over that as you're packing it. And then we'll see a video on packing wounds here shortly. Any questions about that? And then just as a reminder, once you're done packing a wound, you don't stop there, you continue to hold pressure over that site. Alright, so she's going to show us how to pack a wound here. And again, you could also do this with a t-shirt or like a neckerchief. So she's using both hands. You want to keep pressure in that wound at all times, so you alternate one finger with the other finger and always keeping pressure on that wound there. See how deep it could be? She's putting a lot of gauze in there and it just keeps going. After that, you will continue to hold pressure, okay?
Okay.
Alright, any questions about that?
Ano mo tinuro sa amin yun sa training ako? Barn. Barn. Ubus na ito sa barn. Pagkatapos na hihingin natin yan. Ayan yung hihingin doon. Yan o. Sinturon lang yan.
Again, these are commercial tourniquets, so you could buy this from any online store. A lot of emergency departments have them. Police departments, fire departments, and things like that also have them. But you could really create any tourniquet with anything that you have, like a belt. You could do it with a shirt. And we could show you guys some ways of creating makeshift tourniquets as well. So the tourniquet should be about 2 to 3 inches above any wound. So about 3 fingers, 2 to 3 fingers above the wound, okay? So you take that, you measure it, and then you put the tourniquet above that. So you do not put the tourniquet over any bones, especially joints like the elbows or the knees, because that bone is not going to allow that compression to really take effect, and the bleeding is not going to stop because the bone is going to be blocking that. Once you put a tourniquet on, you do not take it off because if you take it off, there's a big chance that they could start bleeding again. So you wait until the emergency department gets there. They will take them back for surgical procedures, and they will take it off typically in the operating room. Any questions about that so far? All right. And we have some lovely models over here. We have a lot of tourniquets and a lot of gauze and all that, so we're going to practice after this, okay? So tourniquets, if you have them, you could apply them to yourself if you need to. So we call it self-aid, buddy aid, so you always help yourself out first. It's kind of what they tell you in the when you go on an airplane ride. They always tell you to put your mask on first before helping the kids. Same thing here. You want to help yourself first, because if you get hurt, then you can't help anybody else. So make sure you're taking care of yourself first, and then you can help someone else with tourniquets, compression, or whatever the case is. If that first tourniquet does not stop the bleeding, you can always apply a second one above that first tourniquet. I've never seen someone have more than 2 tourniquets. Typically,
May seminar kita US Navy.
So they're going to show us how to put a tourniquet on. So that little stick that you see there, we call that the windlass, and you loop it through. You're going to wrap it around nice and tight, and then you're going to start turning that windlass. You have to turn it until the bleeding stops, or you can't feel the pulse. It's gonna hurt, and you should tell your friend or the patient or whoever it is that it's gonna hurt. They might yell at you, they might call you names, they might want to punch you, but you're saving their life because it is very painful to put one of these things on. At the end, you saw she marked the time and date. That's important for when they get to the hospital. Typically, we don't like to leave tourniquets on longer than 6 hours. But in this type of scenario, you would probably not have a tourniquet on that long anyways. Hopefully, within that hour, emergency department and all that should be able to help you and get you to the hospital. All right, these are just different examples of tourniquets. They're all commercially sold, but again, we'll show you guys how to create some makeshift tourniquets here. This is just other style of tourniquets. We won't worry about those. More tourniquets. All right, so bleeding control in children. With children, we don't really recommend the use of tourniquets. Tourniquets are way too big for children, and for most children, you can control bleeding with pressure. So for small children, babies under like 12 months or so, definitely just apply pressure. Anyone like less than a teenager, then you could still control some of that bleeding by applying direct pressure. Larger kids or larger teenagers, you could definitely use tourniquets on, but again, pressure does a pretty good job with smaller bodies like theirs. Any questions so far? Alright, so we're going to go over some frequently asked questions. So sometimes people ask what happens if I get stabbed, right? I get stabbed and there's a big knife just coming out of my body like this, right? So we never recommend you pulling it out. Sometimes that knife is acting as a pressure point. So that knife in itself is holding pressure. Once you remove that knife, it's going to release that pressure, and then you're going to start bleeding. So we don't recommend you pulling any impaled objects out. What we do recommend is stabilizing them, because if you're riding in the back of a car to the hospital, in an ambulance to the hospital, if people are running around you, they could easily bump that and hit it, and then you're going to start bleeding. So what we recommend is you stabilize that knife. You could take a couple shirts, roll them up, and put them side by side. We'll show you guys how to do it with the training equipment. But you just want to put like essentially a couple rolls of towels or whatever it is right next to each other, and then just kind of wrap some dots around it so that it's stabilized and that it's not moving around. Improvised tourniquets, we'll go over those. Loss of an arm or a leg, you always just go to a tourniquet, okay? If there's a missing arm, if there's a missing leg, don't waste your time with pressure. Just go straight to that tourniquet. Pain, obviously tourniquets are going to be painful, any wounds are going to be painful. You just got to realize that you're saving the person's life, and that a little pain now is worth the death. Any other questions?
Yung leg mo lagyan namin tourniquet.
We're going to lay out the equipment, just leave it there for now, and then we'll talk about it in separate groups.
Yes.
Alright, so quick summary, personal safety is always first. You always got to call 911 or whatever your emergency alert system is here. Always find the bleeding and make sure you compress first, then you're going to move to packing. If the packing doesn't work and the compression doesn't work, then you're going to move to a tourniquet. And you can always apply a second tourniquet if that doesn't work. And wait and call for, or wait till help arrives. Alright, so this is the website that I was telling you guys about. If any of you guys want to become instructors, you can go to this website here. It's called stopthebleed.org. To become an instructor is pretty easy. You guys already took this class, so that's one check in the box. There's a couple other online trainings that you guys can do, and they're free. You become an instructor, and you can teach this to anybody. You can go to schools and teach it. You can go to other like city halls, other departments, and teach it. Because this training is pretty important in the first few minutes of an emergency. All right, any questions? All right, I think we ended up with about 50 students. 45. Okay, so we could break up into 4 groups, and then we'll set you guys all up. Okay.
All right, I can get 10 people here with me. 10 people. Come on. 10, 1 right here. Three more.
Nagpasok ako ng video.
2 more. 2 more. All right, there you go. What's the very first thing though. You see somebody and you're like, oh my God, they're bleeding. What do? You what? All right, yes, you call 911. What's the next thing you're gonna do? Yeah, right? So what I like to do like this. I like to check, and then if I find so if I'm here, right? I find it, I take it over and scout this film and it's bleeding. Alright? After that, what's one measure we can use to stop the bleeding? Compress, yeah. And then we're gonna compress your whole body. Alright? You're gonna stay here for a while. You're going to get tired. Okay? Alright, what's after that? Tourniquet's the last thing, but I like it. What do we do? Yeah, right? So we get this. Perfect. Okay, we'll practice it. Alright. We're gonna put this right, so you're gonna use 2 fingers.
What 2 fingers?
Yep, 2 fingers. You're gonna leave one in here, and the other one is gonna help you.
The other one is the one that we push the...
Yep, the other one is what we use to push it in. And we want to make sure that it's covering everything inside.
Yeah.
You're going to fill it in a little bit, take the rest of it, and what's the next thing we do after that?
Pressure.
We go back to pressure, right? With your whole body. And you're going to stay here until when?
Until the blood stops.
When the blood stops, or who gets here?
The medical team.
Yeah, medical team, for emergency. Perfect, okay. What if that doesn't work? What's your next one?
Tourniquet.
Perfect. Here, has anybody used a tourniquet before? Okay, I'm going to tell you now, lady. If you are not screaming in pain, you're not doing it right. Okay? So you have to do it hard. So you're going to just bring it either up to the arm here, if it's an arm. If it's a leg, you can bring it up here. Do not put it over your knee. It does not work. You put it over elbow. It does not work, okay? And you want to turn this until pretty much their arm starts turning blue. That's how you know it works. And then if you know how to set your pulse, yep, you just have one. Once it's done. And then the bleeding, all that bleeding, like you know, the blue is, you can stop. Whole body. Okay? It's gonna get tired. And then after that, what do we do? Whole body. Do we take it off? No. No, we don't take it off. Who takes it off?
The
Medical team. Perfect. All right, we have little kids. What do we do with little kids? Do we use these? No. Why? Yeah, they have little arms. What do you want to do? Pressure, right? Yeah. So if it's for little babies, I like to just use one hand or my fingers, and then just keep holding pressure, okay? And then same thing for like a 5-year-old or so. Questions, comments, concerns? Who's ready to do this?
What if the bleeding is in the pocket?
In the pocket, so you want to find it, and then this is going to be your best bet. You're going to put it right in there, okay? Any other questions? Yes. It's possible. It's just going to take a lot of multitasking. So let's say, right, this one I have here, and then there's another one here. Just got to try and play it as much as you can. If you have people standing by you, ask them for help. Like, hey, can you come help me? And then they stand right here and put that pressure on, okay? Any other questions? These are good questions. I like it. Questions? Are you guys ready to do this? Is that what it is? Okay. Alrighty. Let's see. We have one here. We could do another one here, and then a group right here. Alright, so let me get 3 people, one in each one. Yeah, 3 people. Okay. Perfect, yeah. Alright, so let's put pressure on it. How do we apply pressure? Pressure. Yeah, put pressure. Let's see, pressure. Perfect, your whole body, right? You're gonna get tired. Put your whole body in there. That's it, your pressure. Alright, cool. What's our next one? Gauze, yep, here you go. Alright, yep, 2 fingers, show me. There you go, yep, pressure.
Hindi yan, pag nandun ka na sa actual yan, hindi mo na maisip yun.
That's good. What do we do with the rest? We don't have to put it all in. What do we do? Pressure. Alright, pressure. Are you getting tired? Is your arm hurting? Yeah, okay, real good. Alright, perfect. So, let me get another 3 to go and do it again. So let's go ahead and take it out. Another 3. All right. Perfect. Now let me do packet. Let's pack the wheel. Yep, pack it. You don't want to pack it. Don't pack it. That was my favorite. Yep. All right, once you pack it out, what do you do? Yep. The rest of it, as much as you can. Perfect. All right. Let's get those next three. We're going to be turning on us.
Tourniquet.
Bye.
Ano na ba eh?
Come on. Don't be shy. Yeah, don't be shy. Come on.
Hey, let's go.
Yeah, let's try. All right, let's put all our muscles into it. All our muscles. Yep. There you go. All right. Let's start that with this. Let's put it in. Oh, yeah, you do. There's only. There you go. Okay, you're good. Perfect. You put it in that pressure. Yeah. All right, perfect. You guys are good. Do we have any more people that will do it? Yeah, who else? Who else hasn't done it? All right, let's go ahead and switch it out. Now, if we don't have gauze, what do we use? Your shirt, yeah, take that off. Take it off and start putting it on there, okay? All right, nobody else here? Everybody else looking? Okay. Oh, okay. All right, pressure, pack it. Let's pack the boot now. Let's put the pressure over
Sobra-sobra na si Stella, kaya naman lagi malahat.
There you go, and that pressure. Perfect, beautiful. All right, good job. All right, we get to my favorite part. This is the best part. Tourniquet. All right. Has anybody put one on or used it? No? Okay. Who wants to be my test person? You sure? Yes. Okay. All right. Here we go. Sure? Okay. All right. So, tourniquets, all right? We're going to practice on each other. Let's see here. Oh, you don't want it there. It's going to hurt. You ready? All right, so tourniquets. We want to put this part where the wound is, right? So we're going to put it right here. Bring it around. And then we're going to put it right over here, okay? All right, this is going to be the first type. Tight.
Oh, di ko nagpad pa.
You ready? This is where it hurts. There we go. Until you can't no more. There you go. This, you wrap it so that way you don't take it off.
Okay.
All right, how do we check that it's good? His hand turns blue, but if you can't tell, what do you do? What do you check? Your pulse, yeah.
If there's no pulse, it's effective.
It's good, yeah. All right, can you feel his pulse? No pulse, all right? Bleeding, stop, we're good to go, okay? Perfect, thank you. All right. So let me get partners.
Time stop. Parle sa leg.
Alright, you can do it. Oh, there we go. Yeah, okay.
Kasi parli dyan sa leg.
No, you practice with him. Come on, you got to do it.
Ikaw ako. Ano na naman?
Tight. Yeah.
Might be. Oh, shit.
Iya, bersih mo. Sige pa.
Hindi, wala pa. Oh, yan. No more pulse.
No pulse. Let's see.
Paano pag sa paa? Paano malalaman?
Yeah, there it is. All right.
Tanong mo sa bayag.
Anybody want to try the leg? The leg? You can do it on yourself if you want.
How about the
The
leg?
leg, yeah.
How do you know the quality? Ang ina ka? Kaya nakapa ha?
So for your leg, the way to make sure that it's a good tourniquet, usually people wear flip-flops and stuff, but you can take off their shoes and then you're going to check the top of your feet.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, so the top of your feet right here, yep, it's going to tell you. That's it, yeah, check the top of your feet.
Oh my God. It's bad order.
Do you feel the pulse a little? Then it's not tight. You got to go tighter. Yeah, we got to go tighter. Yep, one more.
Nakapa ha? And then, pag wala ka na maramdaman ng pulso,
Wala na po, ibig sabihin.
wala na.
No pulse? All right, we're good. It's a good tourniquet. Good. Can we use it around the tummy area? No, right? Where can we use it? Arms, right here, legs. You can do it right here. And then if the first one isn't working, what do we do?
Apply second one.
It's the first tourniquet, right? We have one on, but it's still, I feel the pulse. What do we do?
Apply another.
We can use the second one, right? Over time, if you move them, yeah, so you put a second one. Because if you move the patient, they're going to, it's going to move around. So you want to make sure it's nice and tight. If you see blood again, slap another one on there, okay? Any questions? Any questions if you want, but we're done. Good job, guys. Yeah, I can take a picture.
Camera. Do, pa-picture do.
picture do! Picture!
Press together.
Artemio Garcia Raymond Dizon Inkian Dino Gilbert Billion pa kanila po pa Bijan Flor Cabares Bartolome ST Johnny ST Johnny Sis Johnny Patapang Pabagong Alvarez Kakatya Pagprito Henry Kakatya Alvarez
Yan, Alvarez talaga?
Oo
Alvarez talaga yan?
Sierra Jobel
Ito yung maganda. Naku naman.
Jobel Sierra Jobel Sierra
Jubin kasi yung
Jobel pala Agustin Bacol
Tama yung pangalan?
Rogelio Tapila Tapila
Pero may nakapicture pa kasi no?
Cortez Helmar Cortez One more seat.
Okay, cool. 1, 2, 3.
One more. Okay, thank you. Next.